raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
Rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirt bags off these trees.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Thunder rolls, the fire's in the sky. We've been waiting for this moment all our lives. The darkness gathers, the evil takes its form, but side by side we ride into the storm. Thought they could blind us, Together we ride into the storm.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Repill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody out there is doing well and having a great start to their week. And man, we're just getting started, rocking and rolling. Last night we had Q After Hours, myself and Alpha. A few little technical problems. There's storms rolling through the last few days in Minnesota. So if I do lose connection, you know it's most likely because of the storms, thunder and lightning outside. Really cool though. I love storms. Because we're going into the storm. And this is the time of the year for storms, isn't it? I mean, this is the end of at the end of May, the beginning of June. This is when you get those roaring thunderstorms that start coming through, wicked lightning storms, tons of rain. And for some of us, we love watching these storms unfold, don't we? Yeah. So I hope everybody's doing well out there. Not a big news day, but there is some stuff to talk about, some stuff over the weekend, some things that happened today that we're going to get into, some indications of things that are about to come. I appreciate everybody joining in. Man, you guys are dedicated. I love this. You guys are awesome. You know, we have one hell of a good audience. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are pretty damn cool. Well, let me see here. Where can we go with this? What can we do? Well, a few different announcements because this is Monday. It's the beginning of the week. I want to keep everybody up to date of what we're trying to do this week. So Monday through Friday, going to be a normal schedule for us here on the Daily Dose. Tonight, we started a little bit late, 9 p.m. I know we're typically between 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time. I'm sorry about that. That's just the way my life is. But typical show this week for the Daily Dose, breaking the news as it comes out. We have Overwatch and the Guardian, the OG show on Thursday nights. Make sure you tune into that one. This one is going to be a pretty phenomenal, I think, if we can get the guest, which is Dream Interpretation. That's Thursday night. And then Tuesday night, DEF CON 0, myself and Alpha. That's tomorrow night. And hopefully we have some big announcements to bring about to everybody out there, and potentially making another roundtable with some of the other guys that I do shows with. I will let everybody know the updates on that if we can get a roundtable together. I've been kind of getting asked by a bunch of people to do a roundtable with Jaco and 107. So we will see. We'll see if we can get that together. And I did join Michael Jaco this last weekend. If you guys want to check that out on his page over on Rumble or on his YouTube. It was a great conversation. We talked about what's unraveling right now in the world. A lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today. And, you know, let me see. I don't think I have any other appearances. Nino, I know, wanted to do a follow-up as well. Probably going on the Nino here sometime shortly. But now we're talking about this week. It's going to be an interesting week, I think. We're hearing a potential indictment into Raul Castro, a 94-year-old Cuban, for something that happened in the 1980s, the downing of a plane. I think that this is... I don't know what the angle is. Maybe the angle is to get Raul in and have him talk like Maduro, to find out more about the intelligence apparatus and infrastructure that operates, and maybe to point some names towards deep staters here in the United States that were working with them throughout the 80s and the 90s. That's the only idea that I can think, and put pressure on Cuba. We're going to talk about potentially a new Operations Norwoods tonight of what is coming out with all this information about Cuba. We have some China information, not too much, but just a little bit about a more confirmation on what we've been saying was going to happen with the rollout of China and why that visit that Trump made last week was so crucial and critically important to what is unfolding globally. And then what do we got? We got Iran, a little bit of Iran. Trump was supposed to launch an attack on Iran tomorrow. Oh, is that true? I don't think it was, but that's the cards that he's playing. We're going to talk a little bit about that and more information coming out about 2020 election fraud and the prosecution of the deep state. Todd Blanche this weekend joined Maria Bartiromo and discussed a lot of that. We're going to look at a few of those clips. The first things as we get started, though, guys, our website, we have it up here, redpills.tv. I love this website. This is one that I built, and it's phenomenal. But our website is up and it's live, redpills.tv. You can go check it out. When you get in there, you're going to find all different types of stuff. Substack, a few new posts that were posted this weekend. You can go check them out. Upcoming events. Don't forget, I got the Great American Restoration Tour 12. This is in Deadwood, South Dakota. This is coming up at the end of June next month. If you guys want to go to this, you can go to redpills.tv, click get tickets or learn more, and it'll take you over to Badlands Media where you can get in-person tickets if you want to show up in person, or you can get the virtual tickets. Go help support Badlands, myself, and go on over there. And I hope to see you guys all there. It's a really great time at those GARTs. The annual family camping trip. I think that this is our 5th or 6th year doing this. Yes, it is in the middle of Missouri, in the middle of the summer. I know it's hot. It'll be a great time, though. We've done it the last few years out here in Missouri. I absolutely love it out there at the forest property. All I ask is you RSVP. And yes, this will be going up on socialredpill.com as well, our private social network. So there's an RSVP there, but there's an RSVP on the website as well. So if you guys can go in there and go to that upcoming events, and if you're going to try to make it, you can go to that RSVP and you can click on that RSVP and put your information in there. And if you're tentative, if you don't know if you're going to make it or not, you can just put that in the notes. Just be like, hey, I'm RSVPing, but I'm tentative. So that way we have a good idea of who's going to come. Ways to follow us right here, our social media, ways to support us. You can click right there. The best way to support us, though, guys, I mean, obviously, is getting these views in, coming in and watching this show and giving those likes, those comments, and those shares and helping us out that way. If you want to visit that website right there, redpills.tv, and everything we typically do is going to be with that redpills.tv. We just try to make it as easy as possible. And if you want to donate directly to help support myself and the Red Pill Project, that's give.redpills.tv. And I thought about this. I'm like, hey, let's do a little fun campaign. And I know people talk about this all the time, and I'm curious is if you want to cast your vote on this. We've done this before, but if you want to cast your vote on this, should Josh shave or should Josh keep the beard? Should Josh shave or should Josh keep the beard? Give.redpills.tv. Let me know. I like doing that. I mean, the beard does it for me. It's like, I like it and I don't like it. So it's one of those things. So let's see what you guys say. All right. So now we got that out of the way. We're going to run our pay the bills real quick with our Rumble ad, get that out of the way real fast. And we'll have one more here at the end. And then after that, it's news time. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control money. After 2009 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of banks holding your money, delaying transfers and limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today. Everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. All right. And that's actually a pretty good place to start. There's not much economic news. We know we got Kevin Warsh coming in. I think Friday is when he's going to get sworn in as the new chairman of the Federal Reserve. When you guys hear about crypto, a lot of people start thinking about digital ID and digital currencies, central bank digital currencies, and mechanisms of control. But the crypto world actually derived out of something completely different, a completely different mentality other than centralization. It derived out of something known as decentralization. And this is a beautiful concept to understand, because a lot of what is being passed these days in the context of regulation and policy and laws is trying to retain as much of that decentralized mindset as possible. And this is actually what it ignites the levels of freedom within digital currencies. So let's discuss this for a second. I think that this is really important, because we talk a lot about the alternative financial system that is rising up, what Trump is doing with this, and why it's so critically important. Number one is, for the long time, fractional reserve banking, the central banking infrastructure, the IMF, the World Bank, and then more locally, we have the Federal Reserve, have dominated and controlled through centralization the flow and the regulation of money, as well as the lending to the governments and the debt thereof. Now, we have to get ourselves out of that system, because that is not a sustainable model, because you have money that is built upon debt, which means that the more debt that accumulates, the money becomes more and more worthless over time, and you just need more and more money in order to pay for the debt and the things, and therefore it hyperinflates in value. And this is why fractional reserve banking never will be successful in the history of humanity. Around the late 1990s, people started utilizing computers to produce various types of digital currencies, and it was very rudimentary at first. After the 2008 financial crisis, though, people begin taking this very, very seriously. And this is where the ideas of Bitcoin began to come around. In 2009, the Bitcoin white paper came out, and obviously everybody has heard the name Satoshi Nakamoto, whether you think that's the NSA or the CIA or whether it's some global billionaire or whomever it was. I don't think it really matters. I have my own thoughts on it through firsthand information that I've heard from people. But the idea behind Bitcoin was a complete decentralized framework behind how monetization, money, actually worked. In other words, how do you go around the banks but still retain value? How do you keep your money as your money, moving through your own channels where you control every aspect of that flow of that money, where the banks have no regulation, no policy that concerns it, no delays in timing of how it moves, and the governments can't touch it? This was the original ideas behind cryptocurrency. And as we progressed over the last decade and so, obviously these ideas have deviated originally from the kind of the sovereign monetary system that we were all hoping for, but it still holds a lot of the decentralized sovereign nature to it. Back in 2022, a paper came out called the Unified Ledger Framework from the Bank of International Settlements. Yes, this is one of the big global institutions. As well as, in 2022, you also had the World Economic Forum going out there and publishing about the ISO 222 cryptocurrency. This is where XRP got really popular. People don't realize is that XRP was the chosen cryptocurrency by the World Economic Forum and by the globalist bankers as the cryptocurrency that they wanted to integrate and implement. But now going back into it, the Unified Ledger Framework, is it laid out kind of the CBDC transfer of how that was going to organize within the central banking infrastructure. In other words, what they wanted was a centralized system in the middle that facilitates monetary transactions with CBDCs that was 100% completely controlled. But on the rails, on the sides, the banks, we call these banks, but on the side rails of how this operated is you had Bitcoin, you had privatized stable coins and privatized cryptocurrencies that could enter that framework and then transact within it. In other words, you could still have your own decentralized framework operating within the large-scale infrastructure. It was only when you went for clearance of that to pull out, quote-unquote, real money, you'd have to do that through the CBDC chain. Well, in the United States, obviously, we had the Genius Act that passed, and they put off any decision-making on CBDCs until after 2030, which I disagree with. I wish they just banned them outright. There's some verbiage in there that's a little unclear. But what we do know is that programmable CBDCs are not going to be anything that is coming anytime soon, at least within the next decade. And so the fight is still on, but we are saved from that crutch, at least for now. What does that mean is we have something else out there known as stable coins. Stable coins are privatized dollars that basically peg their value to the US dollar. And the idea that's floating out right now is that certain companies, USDC, USDT, Tether, these types of companies are going to lend a special type of stable coin to the United States government that will become a digital dollar. Now, this isn't not necessarily programmable, although it is traceable in these types of things, and they can lock it and all that. Yes, I understand that, but the way that it's going to be exchanged between the government is the genius aspect of it, because it's going to be based upon bonds that are appreciating asset, gold and silver and Bitcoin bonds that are appreciating over time that exist within a sovereign wealth fund. And what this does is this eliminates the debt over time and pays that interest rate, that yield to those companies much, much faster than a 50-year time period. It eradicates the actual debt that we are incurring over short periods of time, which means that our currency doesn't debase. Our currency doesn't lose value over time. And I think that's very, very critically important. And it's one of the reasons why I like this type of setup. But here's the idea, is that it doesn't get rid of the decentralized framework of everything else that's happening. In other words, here at the Red Pill Project, we could go out there and we could create our own decentralized network, our own computers integrated into a blockchain, and we could have our own currency, and we give it value, and therefore it has value, and we could exchange that amongst ourselves, and the government isn't going to intervene. I think that is one very, very positive result that's coming out of all of this, because this is what the big banks and what the central banks have been fighting about for the longest time, is complete centralization of money. And now you're seeing a perspective where in the future we're moving towards a point where money can be completely decentralized outside of a system and still retain value amongst those who use it. At least that's my perspective. So I hope that when people look at Rumble Wallet and everything that's going on with Rumble Wallet and why those things are becoming important, it's because of this, because they go outside of the bank. They allow you to operate outside the bank. It's like if you use Venmo or something like that, you can just transfer money between two people, but then you have to put it back in your bank account. Well, where these crypto wallets are going is that I can just transfer money between you and me almost instantaneously. And eventually, once we have the infrastructure in place throughout the whole retail markets, is you will not need bank transactions to facilitate any type of intermediary transaction. As in, I'll be able to go into the 7-Eleven, I'll be able to tap right there with my Rumble wallet or my Coinbase wallet and pay for goods and services without a bank or without any involvement of a bank. And I think that right there is kind of monetary freedom that is put back in your hands. At least that's my thoughts. All right. Shall we get on with the show? Yep, and you can earn yield directly off of that stuff. Okay, let's get into the show. Let's rock and roll. 1,400 people sitting over there on Rumble. We got over 600 on YouTube and Facebook. This weekend, Donald Trump posted 5/16/26. Donald Trump posted this meme. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It was the calm before the storm. A lot going on here. And I don't know if he stole this from somebody or if this is a meme that he created, because I think that Donald Trump has been playing around with AI. But what you have in the backdrop is you have an admiral and you have U.S. Navy ships and you have Donald Trump leading the ships through the storm. And obviously you have an Iranian vessel right there about to get sunk. And so my thoughts on this is that we are in the storm. We saw the indications of this back in February with Donald Trump with the umbrella, with the rig for red, getting ready, preparing for the storm on the same delta as a storm. That was a White House post. And so we knew the storm was coming. Iran came immediately after that. Iran is one of the biggest parts of the deep state control infrastructure that is being systematically dismantled, of the globalist banking system, of how they control global energy prices. And if you haven't figured out, global energy is one of the main parts of this battle and this fight. And then this has a delta for the timestamp of 1603. And this talks about red wave, white squall. And if you remember the white squall movie, that's where we go one, we go all. We will like to remain anonymous. And that's where you get the calm before the storm. So massive contextual reference frame right there with that delta and that post. And I think what Donald Trump is doing is he's hinting to us that the seas are about to get choppy. Things are about to get incredibly interesting on how all of this begins to unfold. And we're starting to see indications of all of this. Now, you can call me a Q-tard if you want. I've been doing this for a very, very long time. That Q stuff has validated itself multiple times over to me as true, real, and legitimate. And so much so that I've been kind of involved on this other layer of it with other people, kind of understanding this different concept of what it's all about. And we've talked about this multiple different times on this show. Now, this last weekend, you have Marjorie Taylor Greene that comes out. And she's calling out QAnon. She calls out Q, not QAnon, as a psychological operation that behaves like a cult, specifically targeting people who are already distrustful of government and steering them in the wrong direction. She says it works by taking small amounts of truth and twisting it into a false narrative that people get pulled into over and over and over again. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, she came out about this, and I got some questions for her. Number one is, what is the false narrative that the whole Q aspect has dissuaded people into? Love to hear it, because what she's actually referencing is not the boards. She's referencing various different infiltration of actors in the community who basically swayed people through psychological warfare tactics in the wrong direction, of mismeaning of what the boards actually meant, or derived it to these different concepts that had nothing to do with what Q was talking. That's what she's actually referencing, but she's referencing that Q herself. In other words, she's a psyop. This woman was directly elected because of her support for Q. It got her elected. Then we started calling her out for her bullshit. Remember, she was with Speaker McCarthy. You remember Madison Hawthorne came out and said, oh yeah, McCarthy has freaking orgies every weekend and the Democrats go out and attend them. Who was one of his biggest sycophants? It was Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was making massive amounts of money from insider trading. She resigned from Congress the moment she was eligible for a pension. She took her $5 million that she made from insider trading and she moved to Costa Rica, but she's still America first, people. I've been calling out Marjorie Taylor Greene for years, and I'm glad that she's leaving. I'm glad she's gone, and I hope that she is absolutely irrelevant in the next year and potentially even caught up on the criminality of the crimes that she might have committed with her insider trading. But this is a shot across the bow. This is what they're doing. They're coming out with people who potentially have quote unquote inside knowledge, saying that, oh no, it was a psyop. It was a psyop. Of course it was a psyop. How the hell else are you going to wake up a sleeping giant of a population who is about to have their country absolutely stolen from them if they do not wake up and begin to see the light and understand the criminality and the depths of the criminality that had been perpetuated against them? You had to utilize psychological warfare techniques, and that is how it was actually organized and pushed out. I've been saying this since 2018, since I've been doing these shows. And people didn't like to hear that either. Well, guess what? That's the truth. It was absolutely a psychological warfare operation, but it was psychological warfare utilized to wake up people, to help people begin to realize and see what was actually happening in the world so that they could come together and become the media, so they could become the digital soldiers that research, that investigate, that go out there and to begin opening the doors that, so others can see. that drowned out the mainstream media narrative and the constructed narrative to go out there and begin spreading and disseminating the truth so people could wake up. And we absolutely did that. It's amazing. And this is where we are now. I've said before, the decodes don't matter so much as they did back then. To now, it is about taking action upon what we learned from that whole time. And, you know, I've said it before, like, listen, we got a very, very short time frame. And if shit don't happen, this is Civil War territory. But I have faith. I have faith in President Donald Trump. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche confirms it's all about to come out. The DOJ probes the deep state coup against Donald Trump. Let's listen to this part of the interview right here.
We're finding out some incredibly troubling things, and at some point at the right time, that will be made public, and the American people will see exactly what happened to this administration and President Trump over the past decade.
Well, I mean, the country was ripped apart. We all know that. Half of the country said he colluded with Russia. The other half said, no, it didn't. I mean, it ripped the country apart. But you say when the time is right. When is the time right? When should we expect these charges of conspiracy?
Well, I mean, look, as has been publicly reported, the Southern District of Florida has an open criminal investigation. That involves hundreds of subpoenas. It involves hundreds of witnesses. And so as far as timing and when we can expect it, we are working hard and we are working efficiently, but we are going to do it right. We are not going to rush something that isn't ready. We're not going to reach a conclusion before our investigation is over. But I assure you, and I assure the American people, that we are completely focused on it.
Okay, well, I don't know what is not ready. I mean, you know, we've been watching this play out for a long time, and viewers and people watching are frustrated because it just keeps happening. Weaponization keeps happening because it's not corrected the time before. Now,
we're finding.
Well, she's absolutely right, but I have to give Todd Blanche credit here. It's going to be done right. It's going to be done by the law. It's going to be done so that all of America has a clear picture of what actually happened. Now, we know that Pam Bondi came in. She set up the grand jury in Fort Pierce, Florida. This is pertaining to the 2016-2017 Intelligence Community Assessment against John Brennan. But now you have U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova out there who's revamping that whole investigation. And I believe this investigation is being reorganized around the complete Russiagate, FISAgate scenario. And so with that, excuse me, it's a restructuring. And that restructuring, you have to go out there and begin pulling in all of that new information. So I think that we're going to see something from that with Brennan, potentially others, as well as an expansion of that grand jury into the FISAgate realm. Now, how long is that going to take? I don't know. General Michael Flynn, he wrote an X post today to Todd Blanche pertaining to a lot of these comments that he was making. And I want to read this for you here. Dear Todd Blanche, addressing your question as to why, because Todd Blanche says in one clip, we don't know why they did this. Why did the outgoing Barack Obama administration do what they did to me, President Trump, our country, and many others whose lives were turned upside down? The short answer is because they could. The longer answer goes back to circa October 2008. Then candidate Barack Obama gave a speech, and during that speech, he used the phrase, "We're only 5 days away from fundamentally transforming America." All to say, once Barack Hussein Obama was elected in 2008, he started in earnest to transform America into a socialist Marxist state instead of the constitutional republic we were designed to be, even though that hangs by a thread today, especially if no one is held accountable. Enter Donald J. Trump circa 2015, thank God, and he upset Obama's long-term plans. He and his initial team of warrior patriots had to be stopped. Yes, the Russiagate hoax goes back to 2015. Once DJT won the GOP primary, the fake Russiagate hoax began in earnest, and here we are. It still goes on to this day. The conspiracy to overthrow the presidency of the United States and put in place a very compromised candidate instead of one duly elected by we the people changed the course of their history. Their efforts to undermine Trump are still ongoing. You can hear and see it in the rhetoric from the various people directly involved, such as people like Comey and Brennan. I've requested that the 2026 be the year that we make accountability great again. I pray that you are able to achieve some very visible levels of accountability, because if not, I'm seriously concerned about the future of our republic. Spot on. And if you go back into this, yes, the framework was to implement a communal-socialist government in the United States of America. And in order to do that, they had to dismantle the constitutional republic. And they were doing that by undermining everything within our country, basically selling us out to China and the globalists all at the same time. This was something known as the 16-year plan. 8 years of Barack Obama, where he came in and laid down the framework for the end of the United States of America, and then 8 years of Hillary Clinton, which would roll out through a constricted plan of what the globalists had. It was war with Russia for the first 2 years, a pandemic for the next 2 years after that. And once a massive amount of the population had been decimated, this is when the world reorganizes into a one world government, a new world order, adopting the Chinese model of governance. That was their 16-year plan, and it ultimately failed because of Donald J. Trump, because of military generals and admirals, because some people saw what was going on and they intervened with the power and authority they had, and they woke up the people at the right time so that we could be here at this moment right now demanding accountability. And don't get me wrong, there's much more to it, but that is just a small little brief scenario. So, are we going to see accountability? I do believe we are. Are we going to see people like James Comey, Barack Obama? Are we going to see people like John Brennan, Susan Rice, Joe Biden, these types of people be prosecuted? Not all. I'm just going to be honest. Not all. But I think we're going to see the majority of them. I think that what we are about to find out is, number one, who they were, why they did it, how they did it, and what they did it for. I think we're going to figure all that out within the course of the next few months through declassification, these types of things. There's going to be various reports, intelligence community reports, congressional reports, these types of things. There's going to be the DOJ going out there and issuing indictments or unsealing indictments pertaining to a lot of this. Now, what does that mean? It means that I think we're going to have varying levels of accountability depending on what it was. The closer the time frame, J6 2020 election, probably the more indictments, the more investigatory nature that you're going to see. The further the time frame, the less indictments, the more disclosure, declassification you're going to see. So FISA-gate, Russia-gate, that type of thing. Why? Because that's just the way the beast, the DOJ, operates. There's aspects of statute of limitations and all of this stuff. Not everybody's involved in the Graham conspiracy, but I hope that the one thing that does come out of all of this with it is there's a tying in of a central kind of structure that operates within all of these various different things that come about, whether it's the 2026 or the 2025 election, whether it's the, Butler, Pennsylvania, the Trump rallies, whether it's the Mar-a-Lago raid, whether it's January 6th, the stealing of the 2020 election, whether it's COVID-19, the 2018 midterms, FISA-gate, Russia-gate, the perfect phone call, impeachment 1-2 Mueller report, or the 2016 election. And that all the criminality that existed before this, from Benghazi to Las Vegas to Fast and Furious, there's one commonality, and that is the NGO infrastructure. Specifically, various different billionaire NGOs like the Open Society Foundations and the George Soros associated foundations. Now, with understanding that, if you can get unsealed indictments or indictments out against the Open Society Foundation, begin dismantling that, very similar to what we just saw with the Southern Poverty Law Center, and we can take down much of those NGO networks and dismantle their connectivity to government, we are going to be on the right path for the future. And I think that's a lot of what we're going to see with a lot of this transformation that we're seeing right now. And I know some people are like, it's bullshit. I'm just being realistic, right? Like, listen, I want them all prosecuted. I want them all perp walked, but I'm just being very realistic because you can kind of see it. right? I don't know why. You can just kind of see it. I don't think Trump is going to go after former presidents. I don't think he's going to go after Biden. I don't think he's going to go after Clinton, Bill Clinton. I don't think he's going to go after Obama. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll surprise us all. I hope he does. I hope that he absolutely goes and eviscerates them. But I'm not holding my breath for that. Is he going to go after Hillary? We will see. I think that's going to be more Senate and their investigation and criminal referrals to the DOJ, and it'll be up to the DOJ to prosecute Hillary, depending upon her pay-for-play schemes and crimes and everything like that. Who are the people I do believe are going to get cooked and they're going to get taken down? People like John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, McCabe, Rosenstein, Bruce and Nellie Orr. I mean, all these people that were the infrastructure that operated this, potentially even indicting NGOs, the Open Society Foundation. This is where I think the heart of a lot of this is going to come about, as well as the deep state players that exist within the intelligence apparatus and infrastructure. We will see. All right. This last weekend, there was a strange explosion in Israel that nobody's talking about. A massive explosion in Beit Shemesh was at the Tomer Company, Israel's government's defense firm that builds the rocket engines for the Arrow 2 and the Arrow 3 missile interceptors. The system Israel uses to shoot down Iranian ballistic missiles. So they claimed that it was a controlled explosion, controlled detonations. It was not. This, like a nuclear explosion, went off in Israel. I'm going to play the video right here. Then I'm going to tell you what I believe this was.
What the fuck? יש שם בסיס צבאי באמא שלי. יו. מה זה?
Now, what do I believe this was? Well, number one is that the Tomer Company, yes, they build the Arrow 2 and 3 missile interceptors, but they also build out Israel's ballistic missiles, intercontinental ICBMs, ballistic missiles for the Israeli nukes that they say they don't have. Excuse me. Yeah. Someone leaving. Okay, see, later, dude. So they build not only rocket engines, they built and construct all of the missiles. I think what you had here was one of these missiles or a facility of these missiles, not sabotaged, but there was potentially a launching of one and it went awry. Do I think it was nuclear? Potentially, maybe tactical nuke, but highly unlikely. I think something happened there. And a lot of people are going to get fired from that. Now, my thoughts on it are that if this is a sign or a signal of Israelis' nuke technology in the sense that their ICBMs blow up when they're being constructed and that they're highly unstable, that's actually kind of a good thing if you want to think about it, because that means that they don't have the capability to launch ICBMs across the world like they've always threatened they could. Try to align your mind around that perspective. All right, so last week Donald Trump was in China. We talked about the strategic timing of Donald Trump going to China. Now, this is towards the end of the Iran war. This is when Donald Trump had shown with absolute power and authority that he can lock down the massive Strait of Hormuz and shut off the global oil supply from all of the Middle East, hurting China economically. This comes as, you know, Trump was about 14 months into his presidency, and he has absolutely dismantled the Belt and Roads Initiative across the world by going in there and undermining President Xi and China's deals that they've made over the last 5 years within less than 12 months, renegotiating various different trade deals and tariffs and dismantling China's different mineral deals that they had throughout South America, Central America, Northern Africa, the Middle East. The United States, Trump, has absolutely decimated a lot of China's financial infrastructure over the course of the last year. Now you add into it the national security strategy as well as the national defense strategy, the focus on the Northern Hemisphere and kicking Russia and Chinese influence out of the Northern Hemisphere. And then a realignment of the global economic policies towards much of what we know of as unrestricted warfare, utilizing economics and politics as an aspect of warfare and fighting against our potential adversaries of future wars by making certain moves right now economically. Donald Trump has dismantled much of the CCP's control over the global grid. Now, China is staring down a catastrophic urban meltdown. We had a massive crash within the real estate markets over the course of the last few months as a massive local government debt crisis is pushing municipalities towards bankruptcy. With a real estate collapse wiping out up to 70% of local revenues, cities can no longer afford basic infrastructure maintenance, resulting in collapsing structures and sinking roads across the country. Lay Real Talk on X, prominent political commentator, explains while the mainstream media plants a rosy picture of economic health, it's completely untrue. China is crumbling right now under the economic pressure put on them by President Trump. I believe this is also one of the reasons why President Xi last week opened up with the Thucydides trap scenario, stating that, hey, you're putting a lot of pressure on us. We are the rising nation here. We're going to have to go to war if you keep this up. And I think that one of the things that Donald Trump did with his negotiations, and this is what we talked about, was an aspect of economic unrestricted warfare, is he's going in there and he's getting China to take the bait to start buying more soybeans, more cattle, more grain, and more U.S. oil. Why? Because this signifies a respect between the two countries who know their adversaries, and we're eventually moving down the road towards kinetic conflict, that we're willing to move into the trenches of economic mutually assured destruction. As in, if China becomes dependent upon the U.S. supply chain, where the U.S. is dependent upon the Chinese supply chain, neither country can go to war, but they can continue the asymmetric war that is continuously going on. And that was one of the great things that happened over the course of the last week. Now, like I was saying as well, is all of this is about artificial intelligence, the obtainment of artificial intelligence, the control of data, computation, and energy. And Trump is working right now at that main foundational level of the energy aspect, the energy and the natural raw resources. And China believes it's competing against the United States of America to obtain artificial superintelligence first, of which you'll hear all throughout all the experts out there saying that China is way ahead of the United States of America in the sense of artificial intelligence. There's a part out there that it was actually a new report that just came out a few days ago that China is building nuclear power plants, micronuclear reactors. They built, I think, over 280 of them over the course of the last 2 years, while the United States is building data centers, which are lacking the power and energy requirements to actually run them. And that a lot of pundits are saying that China is more well-versed because the data centers are no-brainers to put up, but the energy was the primary aspect. But there's also something else going on. This is a move that I don't think people are seeing. So, and I want to kind of preface this because I don't think that the rest of the people in the world that are looking at these problems really see it from this perspective. Let me try to explain this. Number one is I think that the United States of America has already obtained artificial superintelligence. Hence why Donald Trump is building more data centers than energy. That's why we're not building out nuclear reactors. Number one, you have to change a lot of the nuclear regulation and policy to go out there and build all of that up. But I think that he understands something that's coming down the road, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But he's building the data centers because that is the level of infrastructure that needs to happen primarily if you already have artificial superintelligence. But you need the energy backbone to come about with this. Now, China's going out there and they're building a massive amount of nuclear reactors, but not as many data centers. But they're more primed to be in the best position to obtain artificial superintelligence, assuming that the United States had not already. But I do believe the United States has already obtained it. Now, here's where the important part comes in. One of the things that you've seen Donald Trump done, he just went into Venezuela, he secured the uranium. He's going into Iran. We're going to talk about this here in a minute. He is trying to take the uranium. He's got a deal with Russia on the Arctic. Arctic oil between the Russia and the United States is going to go to China. I told you that Putin is going to align with Donald Trump in the AI wars. Kazakhstan is one of the #1 suppliers of the world in the richest uranium deposits in the world. That's Russia primarily. Canada, which is a variable here that Donald Trump has said multiple different times that he wants to go in, he wants to take Canada, he wants to get the uranium out of the northern parts of Canada in the mountains. That is key and clutch. Excuse me, Greenland. Greenland is another hotbed for all of this. In other words, one of the things that Donald Trump is doing is he's going out there and he's securing the accessibility to various energy domains as well as the rights to these specific minerals and critical mineral facilities, uranium being one of them. So China can go out there and build all of the nuclear reactors they want, but if the United States of America controls 85% of the global uranium supply and the mining requirements for that, or the accessibility to that uranium, then China still is in that aspect of mutually assured economic destruction. And I know people are concerned about the data centers, water, energy, eminent domain. I'm hearing all of this stuff too. I've said this from the beginning. I said that when this starts to happen, the government is going to make this a matter of national security, of which eminent domain clauses are going to start to flow in. The good thing about all of that is that these data centers are going to be moving underwater and into space very, very soon. And this is one of the other reasons why I said that we're not building massive energy supplies here, is because I believe that right now the United States government, this is one of the reasons for the trip to the moon, is already beginning to build out their energy infrastructure of wireless electricity through various different solar farms to beam it down back to the planet. If everybody remembers the X-37B, the X-37B has been on various different missions. It's been up in space for like the last 2 years and nobody knows what it's doing. But we know what it's doing is it's running various different experiments of beaming solar energy back down to rectennas on the ground and transmitting that energy through radio frequency. And I believe that a lot of these SpaceX missions and the moon mission that we just saw were actually delivering a lot of this infrastructure up to space. In other words, what you're going to see is the United States of America, without telling anybody, they're just going to tell you after it's already complete, is building out a national security, national defense energy grid infrastructure in space already. This is being covered up by the Golden Dome, and as well has already been funded. It is already in place. Much of it was in place over the last 5 to 10 years. Trump started this back in 2018. Keep that in mind. This is why you have SpaceX. This is why you have Elon satellites. This is why you have the cloud infrastructure that's being put up there, that they've already built out a lot of this infrastructure in space. You're going to hear, I think that probably 6 to 12 months, you're going to hear about this. The energy grid infrastructure has already been built out in space, and it's already being beamed down. And I think that this is one key points of why we are winning and going to win the artificial intelligence race, because we've already obtained artificial superintelligence, and now it's about building out the infrastructure to utilize it and announce it to the world. All right, let's go into Iran for a quick minute. Actually, let me do real quick. Let me run this one real quick. And whoa. Hold on a second here. I gotta refresh this real quick. Oh no. And 1 second. Okay, I'm going to run this real quick. As a disclaimer for this, make sure you read the fine print. They do charge a subscription fee after you do get this offer. So I just want people to know that. But let's jump into it. All right, parents, real talk for a second. America's about to hit a huge milestone. We're coming up on America's 250th birthday, 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-government the world has ever seen. This is the perfect moment to help your kids understand why this country matters, not just fireworks and hot dogs, but the story behind it all. There's a free guide called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday, and it's honestly a great way to introduce kids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what they risked, and why the ideas they fought for still matter today. This guide sends kids back to the moment when brave men signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing full well they were risking their lives for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way kids can actually understand and enjoy without watering it down and turning it into boring schoolwork. If you care about raising kids who know where this country came from and why it's worth preserving, this is something you'll want to grab. And the best part, it's completely free with this special offer. You just need to pay the $2 for shipping and processing. Just head to freeusabirthday.com. That's freeusabirthday.com. The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday is yours for your kids today. America's story matters. Make sure the next generation knows it. Appreciate you guys. Let me run that. And don't forget, Josh Beard, Josh No Beard. And if you guys want to cast a vote on that, that's just give.redpills.tv. Beard or no beard. And that's all you have to type. Yes, beard, no beard. We'll see who wins on that one. I think the no beards are going to win, and which means that tomorrow I might show up completely shaven, and I might have to just go get a haircut as well. We'll see. Definitely need a haircut though. I can agree with you on that one. All right, TikTok. Trump warns for Iran, the clock is ticking. For Iran, the clock is ticking, and they better get moving fast, or there won't be anything left of them. Time is of the essence. This was this weekend. And then immediately after, Trump put out, I've been asked by the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salam Al Saud, and the President of the United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Saeed Al Nahyan, to hold off on our planned military attacks on the Islamic Republic of Iran, which was scheduled for tomorrow. In that serious negotiations are now taking place, and that, in their opinion, the great leaders and allies, a deal will be made, which will be very acceptable to the United States of America, as well as the countries in the Middle East and beyond. The deal will include, importantly, no nuclear weapons for Iran. Based on my respect for the above-mentioned leaders, I have instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Daniel Kane, and the United States military, we will not be doing the scheduled attacks on Iran tomorrow, but have further instructed them to be prepared to move forward with full large-scale assault on Iran on a moment's notice in the event that the acceptable deal is not reached. So really huge there. Trump was asked about this earlier, and I want to pull this up and listen to what he says, and I'm going to give you my breakdown of all this.
Other countries have come to me and they've said, we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I've put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that, where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think, and if they're satisfied, we will be probably satisfied also. We've informed Israel. We've informed other people in the Middle East that have been involved with us. And, it's a very positive development, but we'll see whether or not it amounts to anything. We've had periods of time where we thought pretty much getting close to making a deal, and didn't work out, but this is a little bit different. Now, we're ready going tomorrow, very big, and not something I wanted to do, but we have no choice because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon.
Okay. So the important part here is what he is talking about with the allies, because I've framed this multiple different times. The reason why last year Donald Trump went into United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, remember, he went up there, traveled them, came out with defense cooperation agreements and defense pact agreements, over hundreds of billions of dollars of military weapons flowing into those regions. We said, number one, is this is containment for Israel. If Israel knows that Donald Trump is arming all of their neighbors, then Israel is not going to start pressing upon all of their neighbors for territory. And the second part is about Iran and containment of Iran. And we saw this last week with how Saudi Arabia and Qatar had actually ran military operations inside Iran on bombing campaigns in retaliation for the strikes Iran did on them. In other words, much of the kinetic conflict is being kind of transitioned off into these regional partners. That's actually a direct threat to Iran or the IRGC hardliners, because what they begin to realize is that this war becomes sustained for 20 plus years. You got all of these various different nations that are Islamic as well, that are now their enemies, that are being funded by the United States of America. That isn't the enemy that they want to fight. And so they start to reorganize their plan for negotiation. So now, why did Trump come out and say this the way he did? He didn't just cancel the strike. He named names publicly on True Social. This is really important. The Emir of Qatar asked me, MBS asked me, MBZ asked me, and I listed. He put their names in the post. Trump told Iran these three leaders personally tried to stop the attack. They're on your side. You have no reason to hit them. That's actually very, very genius of Trump. Because I believe what the United States of America is going to do is they are going to do another decapitation event of Iran if negotiations don't actually occur. And honestly, I don't even think it's I don't think the negotiations even matter at this point in time. It's very, very well apparent that the hardliners are in control of Iran. So you kind of look at it like this: is number one, Trump told the hardliners and the civilian component government that, hey, these other countries around you, they're your friends and they don't want you to get bombed. Make a deal. We know they're not going to make a deal. He knows that the IRGC hardliners are in control within Iran. So with that being said, there's going to be another decapitation event, because it's been shown just over the last 2 months that they're not going to comply. And you have to take out. So my thoughts are, by the end of the week, you're going to have another decapitation style level event in Iran. I think what he's trying to do is, with this information, hey, we're going to attack. Now we're not. Why don't you guys go figure this out? He's going to wait for all the IRGC hardliners to come in. Once they have the intel that they're all in a meeting, boom, bombs are going to drop on their head. What he wants to do is he wants to transfer power from the IRGC back into the civilian component government so that they retain and have the majority of the power, and that way deals can be made. I think that that's where we're headed down. And I think that we'll probably see that within the next 2 weeks. But also there's talk about this, and you had Jesse Waters talking about this. Trump was briefed on something known as the Circle of Death. The plan: draw a kill zone around Iran's nuclear material. Anybody that enters gets erased. POTUS says a very major attack has been planned, and generals say we're on the cusp of more bombs. President has been notified by the Pentagon to be on alert. Bombings could come at a moment's notice. And so the Circle of Death is very, very interesting. Basically, they draw a kill zone around the various different places that they know Iran's nuclear materials are at. And if anybody enters into those areas, it's bombs being dropped. That could be very interesting, but Donald Trump actually wants control over these, wants control over that uranium. Remember what I said? This is about taking back that uranium and getting it into the hands of the United States of America. And you say, what do you mean take back that uranium? Well, go back to the scandal in the Obama administration known as Uranium One. That uranium went to Russia, the Rostov. Well, where do you think Barack Obama was sending that uranium to? He was sending it to Iran. All right, another transition. It's time for a national emergency on election integrity infrastructure. I think everybody's starting to understand this. Donald Trump today said in Maryland, they sent out 500,000 illegal mail-in ballots and they got caught. So now they're going to send out 500,000 more mail-in ballots, but nobody knows what's happening with the first 500,000 they sent. In addition, many of these ballots went to Democrats. So any Republican running in Maryland doesn't have a chance. This was done by the corrupt governor of the state, Wes Moore. He allowed this to happen in order to make sure that Democrats win. It never made sense to me that Maryland was considered an automatic Democrat state, but now I see why. I'm sure this has gone on for years. I'm going to ask the Attorney General of the United States and the DOJ to bring an immediate investigation into this situation. Oh boy, I love this. So we're seeing right now Donald Trump calling the DOJ to Maryland to begin investigation. So your misdirection, by the way. The DOJ, Todd Blanche, go into Maryland and investigate this. No. It's DNI Tulsi Gabbard that's going to go in with her election integrity and infrastructure task force that's going to investigate this and uncover the criminality and corruption. And I think that you'll probably start hearing about this in the course of the next month. I think a lot of this is going to come out around end of July and August timeframe. That's my thoughts. Right before the midterm elections. So what else have we got? AG Todd Blanche dropped a bombshell confirming the DOJ has multiple active 2020 election fraud investigations in Georgia, Arizona, and other places, as we've already talked about. Grand juries have been formed and are investigating. There's a ton of evidence that the election was rigged. That's not something the DOJ needs to tell you. There's been evidence about it for many, many years. That's what we're doing in multiple states. You'll say to me, how long has it taken? Why has it taken so long? The reality of the answer is because it takes a lot of work to uncover what happened in 2020 because these guys are very good at what they did. We're finding out New Hampshire Dominion-owned machines removed 6% of the votes from each GOP candidate in the 2020 election. Over 25,000 ballots found in Maricopa County were counterfeit and not printed from the official Dominion PDF ballot. That's right. 25,000 counterfeit ballots represent over double the amount of Biden's 10,457 vote margin of victory in Arizona. We got the evidence. We have it all. Now it's putting it all together. Now, there is absolutely panic in D.C. Stacey Abrams. Listen to what Stacey Abrams says right here, almost like a Freudian slip. You remember when I said there's going to be a massive red wave in November, and everybody's like, no, the Democrats are going to win. Polymarket said so.
Stacey, could you talk a little bit about how this ruling will affect black representation, not only at the federal level, but at the state level? I'm thinking state lawmakers, county commissions, city councils. To what extent will this ruling affect representation and the representation, particularly of voters of color, at the levels below the federal level?
Absolutely. And that's why I think this is such an important conversation to have at this moment. In a competitive authoritarian nation, which is what America is now, democracy is about ensuring that we have shared power and shared voices. It does not guarantee you victory, but it guarantees you access. Authoritarianism, especially competitive authoritarianism, attempts to diminish your ability to use those same democratic institutions to your benefit. With these new maps, we know that analysis by Fair Fight and Black Voters Matter show that we could lose 19 to 20 congressional seats, but we could lose up to 191 state legislative seats.
Woo-hoo! She's speaking the truth. What did we say about the redistricting? 19 to 20 congressional seats and over 100 to 150 state legislator seats. That is huge. Could lose up to 191 state legislative seats. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that if the Democrats lost 20 seats in the House of Representatives, that's very similar to a supermajority. Just think about it. It's not a supermajority, but very close. My guess is they're going to lose a way more than 20. I think they're going to lose probably 30, 40, or 50. This weekend, Senator Bill Cassidy, who called for the prosecution of Donald Trump, has been defeated. So another one, gone. Remember when we talked about this, guys, right? We have Nancy Pelosi, we have Nadler, we have Coleman, Norton, Graves, Bacon, Granger, Bouchon, McHenry, Rogers. I got my list going right here. Durbin, McConnell, Peters, Shaheen, Tillis, Loomis, Ernst, Daines, all of them are leaving, resigning, or losing primaries. Didn't we say that this was going to happen? Act Blue is under DOJ investigation. You haven't heard anything about Democrat money fundraising. The main governor, the incumbent, just dropped out of her election because she's broke and has no money. Eric Swalwell is running for California governor and is basically facing criminal indictment now for rape. This is what's happening. This is the draining of the swamp. Huge. Cuba is frantically denying that they ever discussed striking Florida, Guantanamo Bay, and U.S. military vessels using 300 military drones. This is a whole new idea of Operation Norwoods, that Cuba was going to stage a false flag against the United States. That would have been stupid. But I guess if they want to stay up and retain power, that's what they would have to have done. Don't need to get into that. Oh, this is interesting. Ashley St. Clair, this is Elon's baby mama, is accusing Elon Musk of rigging the 2024 election using lasers, satellites, and space technology. She says she has a dead man switch if anything happens to her. In October, Elon told me he was ready to release his anomaly in the matrix. He said he has 10K lasers in space, referring to his satellites. This is not a piece they'll see on the chessboard. So what is Ashley St. Clair talking about? Well, it's a greater conspiracy theory that has been operating within left circles, especially on left social media networks, that Donald Trump stole the 2024 election by manipulating ES and ES servers, by remotely connecting to the ESS servers, and therefore switching and changing votes. Where have I heard that before? And now you have Ashley St. Clair saying that Elon is behind it, the mastermind behind it all. Well, unfortunately for Ashley St. Clair, I think the one thing that she doesn't realize is that what Elon was talking about with his 10,000 various different lasers in the sky is those are intelligence satellites. Those are ones that monitor all of the internet traffic and network traffic that was probably going on. In other words, if we understand correctly that Elon Musk was the one who reviewed the information given to him by Patrick Byrne and General Michael Flynn pertaining to the stealing of the 2020 election, and that he validated that through Grok, through Susie Wiles, and then through Grok, and then the Trump and Flynn called up Cyber Command and had them run an operation in Serbia to shut down that whole operation, then it makes sense that Elon would have had his network of intelligence satellites monitoring all of the traffic, network traffic, going into each and every state that had election infrastructure running on it to catch anybody who was trying to steal the election. And maybe she is just so stupid, she doesn't understand what he was actually trying to tell her. That's what I think it is. But it goes into the idea that the left are still running with this conspiracy theory that Trump stole the 2024 election. Why? Because it's getting them researching and investigating and learning the details on how elections actually operate for when the actual information comes out about the 2020 election fraud and theft, it'll be undeniable that the Democrats stole the election. Tim Burchett said the deep state is blocking Trump's UFO disclosure plan, possibly to cover up a 0 Point Energy. It's about power and control. That's what runs Washington. They're going to have to admit they've been lying to us all these years. The deep state is fighting President Trump on the release of UFO files and may reveal a cover-up of 0 Point Energy. Burchett suspects not only not so friendly comrades and alphabet agencies are slowly walking a lot of the information that says there could be some cover-up to 0 Point Energy. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Matt Getz says, if you saw what I saw, you'd know UFOs are real. We are not alone. If the things that I've seen were declassified, the public's questions would be around how this technology exists. And if we don't have it and we don't believe anyone on Earth has it, where do we think it came from? Then this weekend, Donald Trump posted this gem. Yes. That is Donald Trump walking around with a AI alien. Yes, this is AI. I understand that. But the important here is that Donald Trump posted this on his True Social. Now, why would he do that? Well, we know the DOD is releasing more alien files. Now, here's the interesting part. This is posted by Kirill Dmitriev. If you haven't been following Kirill Dmitriev, this is a special envoy to Vladimir Putin. He's been making a series of predictions, and they've all come true. Okay? He predicted back in February, Karl Starmer would be resigning. Karl Starmer's resigning. He predicted the Iran conflict, oil shortages, global economy. Everything he's saying is coming true. Look what he just said here. The aliens are arriving for this season's grand finale. Post has aged well since October 2025. And he's hinted. So are the crazy Belgians a hint that aliens are arriving for this season's grand finale? And this goes through here. If Russia attacks NATO, we will level Moscow to the ground. This is from Belgium's Prime Minister of Defense. Are the Belgians a hint that the aliens are arriving for this season's grand finale? Then you go here. The aliens are arriving for this season's grand finale. Post has aged well since October 2025. Now, what are they talking about? Maybe the unveiling of certain technologies. And what is Trump trying to tell people? Because that wasn't the only post he made. He made a whole bunch of Space Force posts as well. I think what Trump is trying to tell people here is that the idea of Operation Project Blue Beam or a fake alien invasion or utilizing aliens or anything of that nature has been thwarted. That we are now in control. The alien is in handcuffs. I think it's symbolism. That the fake aliens, the fake invasion, Blue Beam, all of that stuff is nonsense. That they got it all under control. That we have technology that is beyond people's imagination, that we've already obtained artificial superintelligence. We already have faster than light technology. We already have directed energy weapons that are far more powerful than the lasers we're using. And that slowly over all of this will be released. Interesting time we live in, guys. Very, very interesting time we live in. All right. So, number one, if you want to vote on Josh's beard, then go on over to give.redpills.tv or just go to redpills.tv. You can find all the information there. Should Josh shave the beard or should Josh keep the beard? Give.redpills.tv. Cast your vote. As well, just go visit redpills.tv. You can find ways to support us on there, from cryptocurrency to Cash App to PayPal to whatever you guys want to support us, or just getting a subscription on the platform that you're on. That definitely does help us. Or visiting any of our sponsors. You got Lifewave, which we'll be talking about this week, life.redpills.tv. Pet Club, petclub.redpills.tv. Don't forget to get your immune modulating mushrooms. And we appreciate all of you guys watching. I appreciate, and there's no we, it's just me. I always talk about this as if it's like an operation. There's like people behind the scenes. It used to be for years, but I don't trust anybody anymore. So it's just me. And so, yep, I do all of this myself. I build out everything. I do all the videos. I build everything. So it's just me. So I appreciate all of your guys' support and unwavering dedication to the show. Guys, much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night. Good night.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns to silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Voice still calls, we the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence. We are served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a life's prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time. There was a time. Now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!